We all know optics are very important in the modern political world. It came in with Blairism really, with his rom-com, call-me tone, whoopsie-daisies, Hugh Grant impersonation style. However, despite the act, Tony Blair wasn't really the nervous, grinning schoolboy he portrayed. He was actually quite a cold and calculated political operator. Now, while I don't like Tony Blair, and he was the harbinger of the great decline that we've seen in Britain, he did at least have a solid understanding of modern politics and optics, something that the Tories completely lacked. Just look at this picture of Rishi Sunak when he announced the election. Everything about this image speaks to weakness, dourness and failure. And who in Tory HQ thought it was a good idea? Who knows? It seems more like a humiliation ritual than anything else. Now, while the Tories are already in self-destruct mode, you could just count on them to do something even worse when news broke yesterday that the Boris wave, that's the mass immigration under Boris Johnson, will cost the UK taxpayer $35 billion by 2028. But in a bizarre move, the ever-aggressive and quite unlikable Priti Patel came out and said we should apologise to her.
All the people that voted Brexit for the fact that you misled them and saying we're going to take back control of our borders, and then you threw them open and let in millions of people.
That is totally distortionary, and that's not true. And to be quite frank, we made it quite clear it'd be people from the rest of the world, people with skills based on our economy. And I think people should apologise for those who are saying that actually...
You would like an apology?
People in the pandemic came here, health and social care visas. What would have happened to our NHS? Are we now saying, are you and others saying we don't need those people in our NHS?
Yes, we are. I really don't get the appeal of Priti Patel. She always seems very hostile. There's no warmth to her. I don't feel like she loves Great Britain or the British people at all. In fact, she's sort of a Frankenstein of Thatcherite Blairism, someone who'd do very well in the cutthroat corporate world of London. Now, that's not necessarily because she's talented. It's more because she's an aggressive, independent woman of diverse background with a mercantile attitude to life whose heart has been kidnapped by corporate goals and values. Personally, I don't really want to live in a system where the Priti Patels of this world are in charge. Remember optics, just look at this footage again. There's something very severe about her. The best you could say is she's got a pretty face, no pun intended, or did 10 years ago, but there's something almost cold about her, bossy. It's difficult to connect with someone like that. Don't mean to be mean, but imagine being married to a woman like that. Here's a husband right now. I think it's safe to say she wants to wear the trousers. The energy of these two reminds me of that cartoon that was around when I was a kid called Pinky and the Brain, where the little mouse is in charge of the big one. Now, to be clear, I don't mind getting yelled at or commanded by a strong leader who leads from the front and backs you as a team. It reminds me of playing football as a kid back in the day. We had a captain like that. He'd be hard on you in training, but when game day came, he'd really back you and get stuck in, and we all loved him as a team. But Priti Patel doesn't have that energy. She has the energy of a conniving corporate HR lady who stands by the corporate rules while trying to ingratiate herself with the equally detestable management. The sort of environment, if you work in, it deletes a unit of your soul on a daily basis. Sorry to bang on about it, but the modern Tory party are just detestable with the Rory Stewarts on one side and the Priti Patels on the other. I just don't see what's there to like. But as you might imagine, afterwards the Tory party tried to do some damage control and released a, quote, statement from Priti Patel, which she obviously didn't write, stating she didn't mean what she said and, they're going to get immigration down and yada, yada, yada. But we all know what they really think. Yet as all this has been going on, there is one person who's been sounding exactly the right note, and that is Rupert Lowe of Reform. Now, as regular viewers know, I'm not sure about Reform. I think Farage is a bit close to a Thatcherite for my liking, but Rupert Lowe seems to be getting better and better. As I've said since I've started this channel, the key themes of this era are immigration and identity, and if you hammer them, you will get massive support. That's exactly what Rupert Lowe is doing when he's stating that if Reform win the next election, they will end the era of uncontrolled mass immigration. However, what I really liked from Rupert Lowe was this statement he made as well. It's something I've been speaking about on the channel. He states, I would like to see countries with similar values come together in a formal way to apply pressure on those nations that refuse to accept their deported criminal citizens. Who could form this alliance? Britain, the US, Australia, Canada, Sweden, New Zealand, Denmark, Italy, Hungary, Poland. He could go on. Now, why I like this is because Rupert Lowe's thinking seriously about these problems. There are many people on the online right who are going into a bit of purity spiralling, if you ask me. There's this line that if you don't accept remigration, you're somehow against it, you're an enemy. But there are practical realities here that have to be met. The harsh reality is that we're in a globalist system. It has its tentacles everywhere, from our government to our civil service. That's true of every European nation. It's in the EU, the European Court of Human Rights, and so on. The only reason Trump is able to do what he's doing in America is because America's so powerful. Now, this doesn't mean I'm against remigration. It means that we have to think about a way that it could be done seriously, and it is right to appeal to the Anglosphere, to the rest of Europe, because they have the same problems they do. They have the same populist discontent. And if we have a shared alliance, a united front, we can push back against the power of the globalist system and actually see this happen. Another plus that Reform have in their favour, other than perhaps Richard Tice, is that they don't seem like typical politicians. They seem like actual, authentic human beings. I mean, take this picture of the leading Tories. It feels like it's from a marketing PR firm that needs a voiceover like this. Tory PR marketers draw from the diverse talent from across the City of London. No matter the despicable actions your firm has done, stolen the pensions of old ladies, destroyed an ancient beloved country and rendered it a cold economic zone, we'll spin your way out of trouble and find a way to blame the very people you ripped off. After all, they're all plebeian scumbags anyway. Yet the upside to this is that the people are seeing that both the Labour and Tory parties are utterly rotten to their very core. In fact, the whole system is rotten to the very core. We really need to start reaching for something deeper if the UK, Europe, the West is to meaningfully survive. That's, of course, a big mission on the Substack. Do check it out down below. Let me know your thoughts as well, and do consider subscribing if you know.